And just so you know, guys, the white zone is for the immediate loading and unloading of passengers only.
You keep saying that. You know that the white zone has always been no parking in the red zone.
Don't give me that red zone bullshit.
You know what this is about. You want me to have an abortion.
It's the sensible thing to do.
Hello and welcome once again to the Cine-Files, where each week we enter a world of a great film, and you are going to hear this all day because today, with our very special guest, Scott Mance, we are digging into what I think would you call the Citizen Kane of comedies?
Absolutely. I would call Airplane, which came out July 2nd, 1980, the Citizen Kane of comedies. It is the funniest movie ever made.
Wow.
What do you think, John?
I disagree, but okay. Certainly, it was a very funny film to me at one time, but we'll have a conversation about it today. This will be fun.
Hi, Steve, John, and Scott. This is Mike from Lunenburg, Massachusetts. I am beyond thrilled that you're discussing Airplane this week. It's my second favorite comedy of all time, behind Monty Python and the Holy Grail. What makes this movie so special to me is just the sheer amount of jokes, visual gags, non sequiturs, and just constant barrage of insanity that still supports a coherent plot. From classic lines such as "I am serious and don't call me Shirley," to characters like Johnny and Mrs. Cleaver talking jive. There are jokes for everyone. And don't forget to stay for the post-credit scene. Again, thanks for doing this one.
Hey John and Steve, this is Joe from London. Airplane was one of the very first movies I owned on DVD. I was introduced to it by a good friend when I was about 11. It was one of the many movies I've bonded with my dad over. I found it funny then, but as I've gotten older, I've been able to appreciate the jokes more and more and find it funnier and funnier each time I watched it. Even at that young age, I was able to easily understand how this is one of the greatest comedies ever made. I really look forward to hearing what you've got to say about it, and I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.
Well, John, since we got here, do you remember when you first came to this film?
Yeah. I think it was a few years ago on VHS. I was like maybe in my 20s, late 20s, and I rented it because everyone said how great the film was.
Wait, you didn't see this until a few years ago? I mean,
yeah.
But VHS, so it had to be at least
right,
10
VHS, yeah,
so,
VHS.
Okay.
I'd heard the Shirley thing all the time because it was I used to listen to an old Don and Mike used to be the DJs in DC. The Don and Mike show, and they would play clips to intro the show of little things, and the Shirley one always was in there.
Of course, you're talking about Shirley. You can't be serious.
Right. Don't call me Shirley.
Right.
It was always in there. So, and then occasionally they played the hospital one. What's a hospital? Well, it's a building full of patients. That's not important.
That's not important right
now. I know they were just. So eventually, I finally rented it and watched it, and laughed along with it, and watched just about everything Zucker and Abrams did after that, and before that, because I wanted to have access to it. So yeah, that's how I came to it.
So do you think that by that point, because you got caught onto it late on home entertainment, do you think maybe you heard so much about it that when you finally sat down to realize, okay, let's see what the fuss is all about, maybe you just had higher expectations?
Oh, well, no, I liked it when I saw it the first time. I think seeing it this time for the show, there's a lot of dated stuff and there's a lot of holes in it. And stuff you would never be able to get away with now.
Well, that's certainly
absolutely true.
That's definitely true.
What was your introduction to Airplane?
So mine, I'm pretty sure this is where it was. I saw it in the theater. It's 1980. When did it come out?
1980, July 2nd.
July 2nd. That makes perfect sense because my Uncle Russell had a condo up in Tahoe. And we went up for a summer thing in Tahoe and went to the little theater in Incline Village. And here is my memory. This was the funniest thing I had ever seen in my entire life. And it was so funny. And I don't know, because I was 10 or 11 years old. I don't know if this is true or not. But in my memory, I was laughing so hard, I fell out of the chair in the movie theater onto the ground and was struggling to get back into my chair, but couldn't stop laughing.
See, that is the experience that I had. I saw the film. I guess we're the same age. I saw the movie.
We're like a month apart.
Yeah, and it was the summer of 1980. I was 11 years old. I didn't turn 12 till that November. So I went with my mother she took me to the Eric Feasterville it's right outside Northeast Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. And I just remember it was an afternoon screening, an afternoon movie, and the humor in the film, and we'll get to that as we get to, really sort of get into the scenes. There was a lot in that movie that that I had never seen before in a film. And, certain words that came up, certain things that you see, that being 11, I'm seeing that in this movie for the first time. But what I do remember is a sort of a similar experience like you, Steve, that I was laughing so hard at one joke that I laughed over something else that happened. And I would say, wait, what did he just say? What did he just say? And she's explaining that. And we both talked over another joke. We're like, this was a film that, of all things, you had to see it again and again to see every joke that you missed because you were laughing too hard.
And I did see it again and again and again. I probably watched this movie, I don't know, 50 times before I graduated from high school.
Wow.
I mean, I watched it over and over. We just put it on all the time. Wow. Like as soon as there was a VHS tape, I had a VHS tape of Airplane. I watched it constantly.
I definitely watched it a lot. It was I remember when we got HBO in the early 80s. This was back when home box office was actually a box on the back of the TV that you switched it. It was a switch from A to B.
Right.
And at the time, I mean, there were a lot of movies that were on all the time. Close Encounters was one of them. Stripes was on all the time.
Sure.
And Airplane was on all the time, and I would always watch it. And one time, I actually took my tape recorder and I held the microphone up to the TV to record it because we didn't have a VCR yet. And I learned the dialogue. And I was laughing along with the dialogue. It was,
You are a person after my own heart. That is such a perfect. And because I used to record things with the little cassette player, the one where you hit play and record, and bring them around. And what's funny is I realized my child has no idea what hitting play and record at the same time is. That doesn't. Right.
Did you do that, John?
No. That sounds. I wouldn't know how to do. I wouldn't know. It never occurred to me.
Not that I listened to them, but just because
I was making mix CDs or mixtapes. That's what I was doing.
Sure.
For just for.
Well, you probably could talk to girls,
right?
I couldn't.
Yeah.
See, I was not talking.
Oh, right.
I didn't talk to girls.
At 15 is when I learned to talk to girls.
Yeah, I didn't start talking to girls.
That's like 35.
I didn't know what a girl was till I was 17. I was a late bloomer, but I would hold the tape recorder up to the TV, and I still have cassettes of Star Trek episodes.
Wow.
That I can't listen to them now because I don't even have a tape player. But they're it's for sentimental reasons. But I figured you would appreciate the Star Trek.
Oh yeah, dude.
Absolutely. I have a tape recorder in here somewhere if we want to pull them out sometime.
Okay, there you go.
I used to record off the radio. That's what I would, that's what I would do. But anyway, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
So I have a little bit of pre-production. Of course, this starts with our writer-directors, which are Zucker, and Abrams, who became so famous as just the funniest filmmakers there were for a long period of time. And they started in Madison, Wisconsin created the Kentucky Fried Theater, which I never knew about. I didn't know that before the Kentucky Fried Movie, there was the Kentucky Fried Theater. Right. And one of the things they would do all this kind of comedy, and they would do these sketches and had become kind of famous. And one of the things they did in the sketches was they would do commercials. They would do commercial parodies. How would they find out about what commercials to parody? Was they would program their VCR to record the late night movie. Oh. And they would next day watch, because those were one of the stupidest commercials that they could parody. And one night they're watching some of the commercials, and in between the commercials is this movie.
This is Captain Wilson and our first officer, Mr. Stewart, and this is Mr. Stryker and his son, Joey.
Joey, here's something we give our special visitors. Would you like to have it?
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
You ever been in the cockpit before?
No, sir. I've never been up in a plane before.
And they go, wait a minute, is this for real? And that movie is 0 Hour. Which have either of you seen any of it?
Never saw
Never
0
even
Hour.
heard of it. What is 0 Hour?
0 Hour is Airplane. It is literally, not only is it Airplane, like I knew that it existed, and now I've actually watched some clips from it.
Right.
It's frequently shot for shot Airplane, and much of the dialogue in Airplane is in 0 Hour.
What?
Unless I can get all these people to a hospital quickly, I can't even be sure of saving their lives. Is there anybody else on board who can land this plane?
And so they bought the rights to 0 Hour for $2,500. And not only that, 0 Hour is written by Arthur Haley, who wrote the airport movies in the 70s. I always thought that Airplane is a parody of the airport movies.
That's what I thought.
Yeah.
Wow, what an education we're getting, John.
No, it is actually a remake of Zero Hour.
I'm looking this up.
And when we get into what some of the stuff that's in Zero Hour, you will see. I mean, it really is.
Is Zero Hour like out? Is it like on iTunes to download?
I'm sure
or
it's.
anything like
I'm
that?
sure it's somewhere that you can find
Zero
it.
Hour, man. Okay, yeah, I thought it was like because you had Airport 75, Airport 79, the Concorde.
Those I used to
remember?
watch because my parents loved
Well,
those.
that's what I thought it was too, but it's not. Well, I mean, it is that too. I mean, obviously they're taking things from that. But if you think about the movie Airplane, one of the big ones is there's this guy who had this accident in the war, and he hasn't flown since the war.
And is that the Vietnam War, or is that the Korean War, or is that World War II?
It's World War II because
my
it's a
God.
1957 movie.
It's a 57
And so it's Zero Hour. And so one of the big fights when they said, I'll get a little bit ahead of myself, they finally sold the movie to Paramount, and the guy they sold it to is Michael Eisner, head of Paramount at the time. And they said, we want to do a period piece. And he said, no way, period pieces don't work. You got to do a modern piece. And they said, well, we want it to be in a prop plane. It has to be in a prop plane because that's what's in Zero Hour. And they said, no, it has to be in a jet. Eisner insisted. So what they did is all the sound effects of the jet are prop planes. It's a propeller sound effect.
You know, I was
with the
wondering
jet.
why a jet. Yeah, and it just occurred to me when I was watching it last night. Like, why is this commercial airliner making like sounds of a propeller plane? Yeah, right. Yeah. And by the way, it's the fakest looking plane, which was deliberate because this movie had a budget of $3.5 million and it made $84 million in 1980. It was the fourth highest grossing movie of 1980. Worldwide, it grossed $130 million on a $3.5 million budget. Ka-chink.
No, this is and so they come to LA, they hook up with John Landis, and he makes Kentucky Fried Movie. They'd never been on a movie set before Kentucky Fried Movie, which I've seen. I have very vague memories of that. I haven't seen it in a long
That's the
time.
first one I rented.
Oh, you saw
when
that
I was
first.
15 or 16, Kentucky Fried Movie, because everyone said, ooh, that's the one. It's got some real risque stuff in it. They say some stuff or do some stuff. And you watch it, because Richard Pryor's in that. There's a bunch of people.
Whole bunch of people.
Kentucky Fried Movie that I know about. And then Amazon Women on the Moon came out around that time. And then eventually I found my way to Airplane in the 90s. But like the 80s was all about that. Because I think everyone was trying to be like Mel Brooks with Blazing Saddles and with Young Frankenstein, High Anxiety. They're trying to parody things, and so you see these other people come through.
Right.
And the 80s was full of that.
Here's your newspaper. Here's your newspaper. Barry Levinson, actually, that.
So for Kentucky Fried Movie, they get the deal. They're trying to sell this airplane thing. First company who wants to buy it says, "Oh, we love it. We want to cast Dom DeLuise and Harvey Korman." And what they go is, you don't get the movie because those aren't. You can't. The point is not to cast funny people.
Play it straight.
You need the whole movie has to be played straight or it doesn't work. So they're off to Paramount. The one thing that Eisner does, he's like, no, you have to have a grown-up who's a producer. So he puts Howard Koch on the movie, and Howard Koch is an old school studio guy who knew his way around, and he loved the movie. He got it, it sounds like, and it sounds like without him there'd be no movie because you have three directors. They don't know anything about directing.
Well, that was a big deal at the time that you had, these three guys, Zucker, Abrams, and Zucker, that they were credited. Each one of them was credited as writers, but also as directors. They had to fight the Directors Guild to let that go through.
That's so weird.
But even though
over and over again,
the whole way, the movie only works when you play it straight. But even having said that, the role of Ted Stryker. The following people either auditioned or were considered to play Ted Stryker, which finally went to Robert Hayes, who was brilliant in the role.
Yes.
David Letterman. David Letterman auditioned. He wanted to play Ted Stryker.
David Letterman.
And they did not go with him. The following people also.
Is there any tape of any of this?
There should be. I mean, maybe
Is it
it's
they're not on the
Easter egg on the Blu-ray, but Bill Murray, Chevy Chase.
Bill Murray.
Okay, check this out. It gets even better. Bruce Jenner.
Wow.
And then this next name, I actually had to surf around and do some research just to corroborate that what I was reading was true, and I did see it other places. Barry Manilow as Ted Stryker. Can you imagine Barry Manilow looking into the camera and saying, "What a pisser."
I mean, what's so funny is like I think Chevy Chase and Bill Murray, particularly at this era, are two of the funniest people in the world.
Sure.
Especially, yeah.
It
that's
would
right.
have that would have messed up the movie.
And you know, because you had Stripes, you had Meatballs for Bill Murray, you had Foul Play,
Caddyshack
like Old
came out
Times.
right around the same
Caddyshack was 1980. That's right. But you know, you cast them, then it instantly becomes a different kind of film because they would not have played it straight.
No,
and
well,
even
and
if
they
they
would have
played it straight,
improvised.
it would have come across as deliberately funny.
Right.
And it would not have been the same movie.
Yeah.
But believe it or not, friends. Believe it or not, Airplane was actually nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy.
Wow.
And the screenplay was nominated and actually won. It won Best Comedy Adapted from Another Medium from the Writers Guild. And boy, did it deserve to.
Absolutely. So here's the legend I've heard. I couldn't corroborate this in any way. Was that because they came up with the idea in '73 and aren't making the movie until 1980, that they just wrote a draft, and then when they went to rewrite, they just put more jokes in, and then every time they got rejected, they just put more jokes in because the joke density of this movie is beyond anything I think that's ever been in film.
And actually, the joke density, the ratio of jokes that do work to jokes that don't work is the highest of any movie, of any comedy, because 98%. Okay, I know you disagree.
He's shaking his head.
John,
statements,
you're gonna bring, but no, this is good. This is good. You know, point counterpoint.
Yeah.
I say
I would
let him
Let
crash.
him crash.
See, you're laughing, John.
Yeah, that counterpoint was funny. That guy was funny. They knew what they were signing up for. I say, let them crash. And then turning right to the camera.
Should we get into the film?
Let's do it.
We open
Sorry, guys.
with Jaws.
Jaws, only 5 years old when this movie was
Yeah.
released.
Yep.
We have that the music and the tail of the plane coming up to between what is just cotton balls. It's not expensive special effects, and the plane flies out. We hear that great score by Elmer Bernstein, and what's so great? It makes sense because he did Animal House the year before.
Yeah.
And John Landis had come to him, and Elmer Bernstein said, "I don't do comedy. What do you want?" He said, "No, I want you to do a completely straight, serious score, which is what Animal House has." And that's part of what makes it funny. And when these guys came to him, he was a little bit more confident about doing comedy, and they said, "We want you to do a completely straight, over-the-top, bad B-movie score." And he went, "Got it."
Boy, did he get it.
And he gets it so well. And we end up at LAX, which looks nothing like LAX today because it's only
way.
one level. And we get our arrivals.
Get the arrival, so you immediately start hearing a man and a woman.
The white zone is for immediate loading and unloading of passengers only. There is no stopping in the red zone.
But wait, the woman comes on. The red zone is for the immediate loading and unloading of passengers only. So which is it?
Well, and this is the thing about Airplane is it's just going to put the joke out there. It's not going to throw focus on it. And what's funny is you probably don't even pick up on the fact that they're not saying the same thing the first time, but by the second or third time you hear it, you're like, wait a minute. They're disagreeing. This doesn't make sense.
Don't tell me which zone is for stopping and which zone is for loading.
Listen, Betty, don't start up with your white zone shit again.
And the great thing about that is that, you know, when they used to have that at LAX, you know, this constant thing going through speakers, you know, it's a white zone, it's a loading and unloading, do not park. They actually, Abrams and Zucker, they were looking for voiceover actors to voice those that dialogue. And they actually reached out to the two actors, the man and the woman, who voiced the actual LAX announcement. They found the two voiceover people who recorded that for LAX, and they're a married couple. Couldn't find the names, but you know, it was corroborated on a bunch of different places that the actors, the voiceover people who recorded the dialogue for the film were the actual people who recorded the voiceover announcement for LAX at that time.
Oh, really, Vernon? Why pretend? We both know perfectly well what it is you're talking about. You want me to have an abortion.
It's really the only sensible thing to do if it's done properly. Therapeutically, there's no danger involved.
Do you know if they ever had any issues with children or babies or abortion in their life?
You know, that would be a hell of a thing because that movie, starting with that announcement, I turned to my mother and said, "What's an abortion?"
Oh my God.
I mean, I didn't know. I mean, this wasn't an R-rated movie, even though, you see some nudity for like 2 seconds later in the
this
film.
was the days when we were more lenient with that R-rated and PG and all that jazz.
Well, in particular, what could you make a joke about? Like,
Right.
Karen and I debated for 3 weeks whether or not to let Jack see this movie. And we said no in the end because there's so many jokes where it's like I just couldn't explain it to him. Like there are a ton of jokes that he would adore. It's totally a sense of humor. It's a lot of silliness. But when you get into like race and sex and there's some stuff in here that's like, I don't know how I can make him understand why we thought this was funny, and then B, make him understand why he can never make this joke in his life.
I like my coffee black, like my
men.
I thought that was so.
That's another one.
That still works.
I didn't get that. I didn't get that.
course.
Like, Mom, I kept saying, like, Mom, what's that?
You know what the funny thing is I don't know what I did or didn't get because I can't go like at some point. I'm sure I didn't get most, some percentage of the jokes, and then slowly but surely I got them, but I don't really know when or on what. I mean, there's a lot of.
Well, you saw it 150 times. I'm sure.
I saw it
eventually
a ton
it
of
got,
times
by osmosis. It got in.
So as we're hearing the white zone and the red zone argument, we're also seeing our characters come in. We see our jive guys come in. We see the Church of Religious Consciousness guys. we see the married couple and their little kid Joey coming in. We see a guy going through the metal detector, and we have a little metal detector joke, which isn't one of the best jokes in the movie,
but it's still pretty funny, I think.
And then we see Ted Stryker, Robert
pulls up in a cab.
Yep.
Gets out. Guy gets in the cab.
Who's the guy that gets in the cab?
Who was that? Do you know?
I do. This is what's funny that this is, so you grew up in Pennsylvania, right? Yep. And you grew up in Virginia.
Yes.
I grew up in California. The man who gets into the cab is Howard Jarvis. Howard Jarvis is extremely famous in California in this era because he is the guy behind Prop 13. And Prop 13 is the property tax bill, or the property tax legislation that passed in 1977, I think. And what it was it's what decided that in California, your property tax can't go up more than 4% a year. It maxed it out in order
so that's the guy that got to hop in the cab.
And the thing about, I remember when my mom was on a school board when this measure passed, and she said this is going to ruin California education because in 1977 California had the #1 education in the country, and now it's in the bottom 40.
Wow.
And because what Prop 13 meant is that the main income for California is from property tax. And so every year there is less and less property tax. It's also why property values in California have gone up, and also why people stay in their homes forever. Because the longer you stay in your home, the lower your like if we sold our house today, the people who bought it would pay 5 times as much money in property tax.
No kidding. Wow.
Because it just leaps up. It's super expensive to buy a new home. So there is a reason that the guy you stick in the cab is the guy whose taxi cab bill is going up and up and up.
Wow.
And so Ted Stryker, this is how we see Ted Stryker played by Robert Hayes for the first time. And so this guy gets in the back seat and he says, I'll be back in a minute. And then he runs off, then he comes back and he starts the meter.
We're out in the runway, and we see a guy directing the plane with his little lights, and someone asks him, where's the cafeteria? And he goes,
it's over there.
It's over there.
He's in the lights.
And a huge plane comes crashing through the terminal window. This is the most expensive thing in the whole movie.
They used to use this for the CBS Sunday afternoon movie.
Oh, sure.
They clipped this part in when they were showing multiple, along with the Charlton Heston Planet of the Apes moment.
The explosion of the Death Star.
The explosion that's Gone with the Wind.
Yep.
All of that was mixed in this moment. And for years, I thought this was from Silver Streak. For what? Because the train goes.
With the train.
Right.
Yeah.
So I thought, and I just never put Train and Plane together.
Silver Streak, 1976. Great movie.
Good movie. So I saw
Don't
that.
think it's going to be on the Cinephiles.
No,
I watched it recently.
But Stir Crazy, I'd like to put on the Cinephiles someday. I love that movie.
I don't know how that's going to hold up either, but I'll watch it again for you. I loved it. Does it? Okay.
It does.
Silver Streak. It's like, it's okay. It's
Silver
okay.
Streak's a little
and then
rough. Yeah.
Richard Pryor walks in and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Did you do Young Frankenstein?
Yeah, we did.
We did.
You
Of our
Oh,
very
that would have
first.
been. That would have
I
been.
think it might have been our 7th or 8th film we ever did.
Love that film.
So this is the most expensive thing in the movie. It cost him like $25,000. It's a 3/4 size model of a plane. And somehow Howard Koch, their old studio executive producer guy, he was gone when they did this. And he comes back and he goes, what did you do? And he said, oh, well, we needed to crash this thing through a window and it was a 3/4 size and it cost $25,000. He's like, why didn't you do a miniature? And they said, what's a miniature?
It's a cubit.
But if they did a miniature, you wouldn't have had like the people running.
jumping out.
Yeah.
Also, Zucker and Abrams tell a story. Can we really believe that that's the true story or is that a joke? Ted catches up to Elaine.
Julie Haggerty.
She's so funny. She's so funny in this. And we have a classic romantic scene, which is she's left him because he's not going anywhere in his career. And
still dealing with post-traumatic stress from the war.
Yep.
Which because the movie came out in 1980 and because it takes place in contemporary times, the war that was fresh in everybody's mind was Vietnam.
Yeah.
But yet when they're showing him sort of flashing back and having his bouts of PTSD, they're showing biplanes. So I remember thinking, even back then when I was 11 years old, thinking like, wow, he looks really young to have been in World War II. But again, I didn't know that it was based on Zero Hour.
Are those 0 hour clips that they're using?
So I think some of them are actually the 0 hour clips. When it gets to the biplanes and the ridiculous stuff, it's not. But I think some of the flashback material is the same material.
Damn, that makes so much sense now.
And by the way, when they shot this, they couldn't control the airport space. It's a live airport space. So they're actually real passengers running back and forth, which is a total nightmare to shoot. And in this shot, there is a dude pulling cable. That they didn't have a lot of time or money to shoot this thing.
Oh, no.
Jeez, wow.
Captain Oveur.
Okay, Captain Oveur. Now, this was my introduction to Peter Graves. I
had been watching Mission Impossible. I was a huge Mission Impossible fan.
I never saw Mission Impossible until maybe a couple of years after I saw Airplane. Okay. And I was flipping through the TV, and I see this guy with white hair. I mean, he must never have had black. He must have been born with gray hair.
I think he was.
And I'm seeing Peter Graves being all serious, and I'm like, wait, is this Airplane? No, this was Mission Impossible. Oh, and so funny. Peter Graves, when he was offered the part of Captain Oveur, he initially turned it down.
No surprise.
Because he thought the screenplay was terrible. He thought it was tasteless, and he didn't want to have anything to do with it. But some of his friends read the screenplay, and they thought it was really funny. And his manager, his agent, people who were handling his career said, these guys, Abrams and Zucker, they're the hot thing right now. You should make this movie. So that is why he said yes.
I think it was brave. I mean, and it sounds like he was pretty scared because right now he walks up to a news rack covered entirely with filthy magazines.
Yeah, porn magazines.
And the magazine he pulls out, carefully to take a look at, is Modern Sperm.
Modern Sperm.
At which point we hear,
Captain Oveur, white courtesy phone. Captain Clarence Oveur, white courtesy phone.
And he walks over and picks up the red phone.
No, the white phone.
The white phone. Oh, okay. I love that joke. And then he picks up the phone, and we hear Captain Oveur pick up the what? I got it.
Thank you.
Thank you. So he's talking to the doctor because there's a little girl on the plane who needs to be who needs a heart transplant.
And then you see the heart bouncing.
So the doctor is talking.
That's what
at the Mayo Clinic.
Serious conversation. Yeah. Mayo Clinic, and the doctor is talking, and then you pan down on the bottom right hand side of the screen. You see this beating heart, and I remember going like, "Oh my God, that's so gross." And then even during the conversation, the heart starts like bouncing around in the screen, and this guy's having a serious conversation.
Yep. And what is sitting behind him?
What is sitting behind?
500 bottles of mayonnaise.
Yes.
Because they're at the Mayo Clinic.
I never noticed that.
Well, this is what I mean by joke density is like we've had white courtesy telephone, we've had no the other one, I got it, the bouncing heart, and the mayonnaise can, and then he gets another call that he has someone coming in on ham radio, and he says,
"All right, give me ham on 5, hold the mail."
I mean, that's another these are the things about these jokes, these are jokes. He's
playing it straight.
These are like, it's not situational jokes. It's not like we don't have a character who's embarrassed, we don't have people falling down. We don't have people saying witty things. They're saying ridiculous wordplay jokes.
Nothing is tongue in cheek.
These are
no one is winking to the camera.
This is a
total dad.
This is a movie full of dad jokes.
It is full of that.
So it's funny to watch now in retrospect. But I'm enjoying you two reliving it. This is good. This is great.
Well,
So,
it's going to go
by
on a
this
while
point in
longer.
the film, John, you're watching it recently.
Yeah, last night, literally watching it last night, Lindley was out after 15 minutes. She was done. She was just like, this is stupid. And I'm watching.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
This is sacrilege,
Well,
John.
It's
To
not
be
for
clear,
her.
it is stupid.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, I think stupid is correct.
That's stupid funny. Exactly.
It's stupid funny.
When I'm,
I was watching it last night and I was stitches. I was laughing so hard.
I didn't laugh until the disco scene. That's the first time I laughed. And until then, because then everything else is like pretty obvious. So you're just like, okay, I get it. But
So you're in the airport and you have Elaine played by Julie Haggerty, and you have Robert Hayes, Ted Stryker, and she's saying it's over, and she walks away, and for the only time in the movie, someone breaks the fourth wall.
Right.
Sure.
And Robert Hayes, as Ted Stryker, looks at the camera, says my favorite line of the movie, a line that I have quoted many, many times in different situations over the years. What a pisser. I just love that line.
is that a phrase at the time?
I just
have
the
no
way
idea.
he looked
I have
at
no
the
idea.
camera just goes, what a pisser.
What a pisser.
I just have used that line a million times.
As you should. Later on, he catches up to Elaine again, and now we hear a little bit more about his war record, and he hasn't been able to hold down a job, and hasn't been able to be near a plane, and that he's scared of planes, and she's basically like, it's over. We're done. And a dude, because there was this time where there were these people at airports wanted to hand you a flower, and some person who's a Hare Krishna or a church of this or a church of that says, here, can you have this flower? Punch right in the face.
Just right in the face. We all wanted to do that to those people at the airport.
Absolutely.
Well, she says to him too. She says, I can't be with a man I don't respect.
Yep.
And she says the only reason the war record is an issue is it's in your head. So it's important coming down the line.
I
only one
believe,
who's holding on
I
to
believe
it.
those lines are directly out of 0 Hour.
Oh, it makes sense.
They're perfectly 0 Hour lines.
They're also so relevant because it was just a few years after Vietnam.
Sure.
So, geez, wow.
So we're in the cockpit. We have Captain Oveur. We have Victor. And we have a guy coming up to wash the windows.
Yeah.
Which is
that Jimmy Walker?
JJ Jimmy Walker.
Yeah.
Yeah. And apparently the studio initially said, let's put a ton of cameos in the movie. This is really the only one that they put in as a cameo.
Yeah, good point.
And he, there's a little bit of physical comedy. And we're hearing just talk about the flight, and in comes one of the co-pilot, Roger, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Los Angeles Lakers. Mm-hmm. He's that was a big get. That was a big casting stunt for 1980.
Do you know who they originally wanted?
No.
Pete Rose.
Oh,
It was all written for Pete Rose, but then they ended up shooting in the summer. And so they couldn't use him.
Season.
They couldn't use him. The reason, by the way, that Kareem is in this is the pilot in 0 Hour is Elroy Crazy Legs Hirsch,
Right.
an NFL football player.
He used to be at Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. So he was the pilot in 0 Hour. So they're like, well, we have to have a sports star to be the pilot in this, or the co-pilot.
That's brilliant. And it totally works. He is great in the movie.
He's so
for that
great.
part.
I love when he grabs the kid.
Oh my god.
Well, it's so odd what they're doing this, like,
So good.
Because when you see O.J. Simpson in Towering Inferno or something, they're not playing O.J. Simpson. And so we go like, oh, I guess it's a cameo, and Kareem is playing Roger Murtaugh, the co-pilot, which reminds me of Roger Murtaugh, which is Lethal Weapon. But in this case, no, we actually are going to comment on it later on. And then a guy comes up and he swipes the credit card through the window.
What's that for? What was the joke there?
Because they're filling up their gas. That's what JJ's doing. He's checking the oil and doing the windows.
He's trying to close the hood.
Which, by the way, none of that works because when I was a kid, there were full service gas stations.
Right.
Now you got to live in Oregon and New Jersey. Those are the only places that still have full service gas stations.
Those were the days.
Yeah. And we see like a little kid in a suit who's reading U.S. news, checking out a young girl in a business dress. Mm-hmm. They had a lot more stuff that's on the cutting room floor with these two, by the way.
Oh, did they really?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. So Ted Stryker goes to the ticket counter and gets one ticket on the flight to Chicago. And they ask if he wants smoking or non-smoking.
He says, I'll take smoking, please. And the ticket is smoking. I mean, How do you not love this movie, John? Come on. How do you not love this movie?
I'm enjoying you guys reliving it. Like I
This is
said, you guys are making
hilarious.
me enjoy the movie
I
more.
mean, like there's not like seriously, there's not 10 seconds that goes by in this movie that's wasted. Every single moment. And you're laughing so hard at one joke that you laugh over another joke and you miss it and you have to go back and watch it again.
So we're seeing a whole bunch of characters on the plane, and we meet two characters who are known as, in the script, the Jive Guys.
Those guys are great.
Oh, the Jive Guys. It's the Jive Guys are hilarious.
Norman Gibbs and Al White. And here's where this joke came from. Our three guys from Wisconsin go to see Shaft.
Oh, yeah.
And couldn't understand the dialogue. So then they wrote their version of Jive Talk. These three white guys from there. And they sent it out for auditions. And their very first audition of the day is Norman Gibbs and Al White, who knew each other beforehand. And they had sat down and rewritten all of it in their own language. And that is what's in this. So they wrote all this. It is brilliant.
Yep.
I mean, I replayed it multiple times. I'm like, they are so perfectly committed to this. It sounds like a completely real
language.
A different language.
But of course, in this language, golly means she.
Jive to me is akin to what you see in Britain when they do their version of that slang that rhymes with the word they actually mean. That kind of thing. Where you see, it's a Barney Rubble trouble. That's what I'm trying to get at. Jive is basically that version of that for Black Americans. Yeah.
Apparently, when it's played internationally and it was dubbed, nobody laughed. Nobody laughed anywhere except in Germany, because in Germany there's some, I think, northern German dialect where people, and so they used that as the jive, and they wrote it, and then everyone thought it was hilarious.
That's funny.
It's funny.
Just talking.
The jive is great.
The jive is great. Yeah. You got to be on board by this.
Yeah, I'm on board with the jive. I love the two.
On board with the golly she.
And when the Beaver's mom, that interaction is gold.
I speak jive.
Fantastic.
And when it comes back in the sequel in the court, that's funny too.
See a sequel.
Yeah. But that court scene is good, and it goes downhill from there.
There's a bit. One of the bits I don't like so much is a goodbye with the soldier, and there's a conductor. It's all classic movie cliches. And then as he's leaning out the plane as the plane's going away, and she's knocking down towers.
Yeah.
It's funny. It's not one of my favorite bits where there's so many good bits.
Well, we talked about the casting of Ted Stryker, all those people who were down for playing Ted Stryker or considered or even got so far as an audition. Did you know that the part of Elaine Dickinson, that this actress auditioned for it? Sigourney Weaver.
Oh, wow.
I did not know.
Sigourney Weaver was very much considered to play Elaine.
Wow.
And I mean, look, Julie Haggerty is great, but I mean, listen, we have seen Sigourney Weaver do comedy, and we've seen her do horror, and we've seen her do drama.
She's a fine actress.
She is an absolutely fantastic actress. Can you imagine? I actually could see that in my mind's eye. I could see a young Sigourney Weaver as Elaine.
It's a different part.
Yeah, it'd be
because Sigourney has that steel.
Because Julie Haggerty is just. That's who she is.
She's
so sweet.
Yeah.
She has that voice. We have a little bit that they've set up over a long period of time of Roger, Victor, and Oveur.
Oh my God.
Roger. Huh? LA departure frequency 123.9er.
Roger.
Huh? Request vector. Over.
What?
Flight 209er clear for vector 324.
We have clearance, Clarence.
Roger. What's our vector, Victor?
Roger.
What's your vector, Victor?
Huh?
Come on, John, you're laughing. We got you, buddy. We got you.
While Captain Oveur is making an announcement, we see that there's a young kid and he's reading, or we see that there's a nun reading Boy's Life and a kid reading Nun's Life, which apparently they had to get someone to go surfing in a nun's outfit in order to have the gag.
That wasn't just like Photoshop?
No, because there is no Photoshop.
Oh, that's right. It's 1980.
This is a joke. I'll tell this joke as the Jewish one in the room. Is they're handing someone a big magazine. She's like, "Do you have anything light?" Well, we have this pamphlet on world's greatest Jewish athletes.
That was my first laugh. Sorry, that was my first laugh.
As the other Jew in the room,
Oh, you are
I
Jewish.
thought that was funny.
That was
Okay.
But I did turn to my mom and I said, "I don't get the joke," and she just said, "There aren't any Jewish athletes."
She didn't say Sandy Koufax. And Ted, of course, tries to talk to Elaine, but it doesn't work. Right. And he sits down next to this very lovely older woman, and she says,
No wonder you're upset. She's lovely. And a darling figure. Supple, pouting breasts, firm thighs. It's a shame you two don't get along.
Thanks a lot, lady.
well, one of the things that for most of the movie, the key to the humor is that nobody reacts.
Yeah.
Nobody goes, "That was a strange thing for this woman to say." Right. And he says things used to be different, and she nods, and she turns back to her book, and then he keeps talking, and her look...
Yeah, she's like, "Oh, shit."
Which, by the way, that's me on almost... If any stranger on a flight wants to talk to me, it's like, I have my phone.
Right.
I have my headphones are in. Headphones are in. Oh, I don't want to talk.
Yeah, don't talk to me.
Yep.
If I'm on a plane, someone starts talking to me, I try to pretend like I'm really into the crappy magazine that I'm reading.
Best $300 I ever spent 2 years ago were the Bose noise.
Oh, those things are... Karen has a pair. They're awesome.
You don't hear a thing, and people know to not talk.
To leave you alone.
Yep.
Good
At
to
work,
know.
I wear them at work, and people have to wave their hands in my face.
You wear them at work?
Oh, yeah. To write and do what I do at work at Collider, yeah. People have to wave their hands in my face.
Well, you're sitting out in the
talk
open
to
and so distracted.
It is.
How the hell do you get
Very
any freaking work done?
It is. That's why I bought. That's why I
Yeah,
use them.
good thinking. Yeah.
And that's a twist. The joke is a twist because usually it's the old lady talking your ear off.
Exactly.
So I like that twist of the joke.
So, and we go into a flashback, and we go back to the war
Yeah.
where he was stationed on Drambuie, the Barbary Coast. And we go into this flashback of this bar that is the classic.
Yeah.
I don't even know what era this thing is supposed to be.
When is that supposed to be?
Well, that's what's so great is that it feels like, I don't know if it's World War II in the South Pacific or
No
what.
idea. It ain't Vietnam, that's for sure.
It's definitely not Vietnam, and he's wearing the dress whites.
Saturday night, yeah, that's yeah.
Well, before we get to that, and then there's like the long-legged woman on the bar, and the camera pans up, but she's playing the trombone, which is a great joke.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're hearing in his voiceover that a fight breaks out every night, and we cut to these two Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
Well, we
With
see them
ponytails.
gambling,
Yeah.
and like one of them is cheating, and then the camera pulls back, and we see their Girl Scouts, and they have a knockdown, drag out.
And it keeps going
That
and
goes
going
and goes. And
I wonder if that's the first two stunt women fights ever like documented on screen that it's two women fighting in stunt.
that is a great question.
That's exactly what occurred to me when I was watching. I was like, this is unintentionally groundbreaking. You know?
I'm sure that there have been women fight because there was like the Perils of Pauline, and there's
Right.
but in terms of like this kind of knockdown,
right,
drag
choreographed, yeah.
yeah. And then of course they in the fight bump into the jukebox, and the jukebox starts playing.
If you call
Staying alive.
Staying Alive.
If you call getting your head thrown to a jukebox, bumping into a jukebox,
That is what I call it.
So Staying Alive starts playing, and this guy, this like total loser guy, just starts dancing, and he starts dancing with Julie Haggerty, and someone stabs him in the back, and he's like, like dying, and he's like trying to make a motion, like, oh, like there's a knife in my back, and Julie Haggerty is like just sort of
Just
mimicking
mirror
his
dancing,
dance
yeah.
moves. No idea, just so lovely, totally naive and sweet. No idea what's going on.
By the way, that dude has such a big padded hump on his back.
Yeah, he does.
Before he gets stabbed. And at the same time, of course, Ted is watching this, and we're hearing his voiceover. I didn't come there to fall in love that night.
Playing totally straight.
Totally straight.
I was captivated, entranced. It hit me like a thunderbolt. I had to ask the guy next to me to pinch me to make sure I wasn't dreaming.
The
Yeah,
look
'cause of
from
the
the
dirty
guy,
look.
they're like, what?
What? Like, get out of my face.
And then the guy gets stabbed, and so Ted's going to go out and dance, so he throws his hat away.
Someone throws it back.
Hat comes back. And then they go into some choreography that is full disco, including like them on wires and doing these massive flips. They do the classic. She picks Ted up, is spinning him around, flips him away. The stunt man goes behind some people, and a moment later, Robert Hayes pops out. Just classic cheesy stuff. And there's even the moment where he takes off his jacket, and now he's in the full John Travolta Saturday Night Fever. Throws his jacket away. Hits him in it.
Someone throws it back.
And then he does what I could only describe as a PowerPoint. That sounds like gunfire goes off when he points. And then he's doing Russian steps and juggling, and it becomes really ridiculous. And
That's
then
the silly part, John.
Yeah, that I was laughing at.
It is really silly. And then we're back to like a slow dance, and what's going on in the middle of the slow dance? Those Girl Scouts are still fighting.
Still fighting.
And then as you do in a flashback, you come back to Ted sitting on the plane, and he says, I hope this hasn't been boring you. And the camera pulls back. It pulls back. There are 2 feet floating next to him because
she hung herself.
Because she hung herself. I think Mance and I are just going
to... Which becomes a running gag.
That is a running gag.
They would rather die than hear him keep going.
And now Joey the kid is talking to the stewardess, to Elaine, and says, hey, can I see the cockpit? And they go, sure, I don't see what problem this is going to be. And the stewardesses are taking orders, and we hear that we have a choice of fish and steak. She takes orders from the Jive guys.
Would you gentlemen care to order your dinners?
Bet, babe. Slide a piece of the porter. Drinks, I run the job.
Look at here. I can dig grease and trumpet on some butter and drag them through the garden.
And I love the sort of look. I'm always kind of like, how did she give them the right things?
No. She has no idea what they're saying. I love that look on her face, like, okay.
And then our kid in the suit, who we'd seen earlier, we get the line that you brought up. He brings the other little girl some coffee.
This is so great.
Excuse me. I happened to be passing. I thought you might like some coffee. Oh, that's very nice of you. Thank you. I want you to sit down. Thank you. Cream? No, thank you. I take it black. Like my man.
And his look,
his look is
on his face.
Because his look isn't like big wide-eyed look. It's a slow understanding of like, what the fuck? Very funny.
And now Elaine is watching Ted, who's obviously talking to another man and telling his story. And Elaine has a flashback, and we go to the beach.
We go to the beach. This is the moment that is inspired by From Here to Eternity, and this moment was actually filmed on Zuma Beach, which. The exact same place where Charlton Heston discovers the Statue of Liberty in 1968's Planet of the Apes.
So Zucker, and Abrams say they never even saw From Here to Eternity.
Oh, wow.
But what I actually wonder is, I think that From Here to Eternity shot was in that same montage you were talking about with the plane going through the glass and the explosion of the Death Star and I'd seen that montage long before I ever saw From Here to Eternity.
So maybe they saw the scene, but not the whole film.
By the way, if you watch Julie Haggerty in this scene. It is so brutal. I bet she felt like she was going to die. I mean, she's on her back and water, and you look at there's moments where you look at her face and you're like, oh my God, say cut. She's in trouble.
They're drowning.
Oh no, it's terrible.
Yeah.
And by the way, so the shots, we have the shot as we go into close-ups and we're looking down at Julie Haggerty and up at Robert Hayes.
And they're covered with seaweed.
There's a dead fish behind them. Robert Hayes is actually on like an 8-foot tall platform because you can't have the camera just looking up, and you need some space, particularly for the lensing you're using. Yeah, so he's 8 feet off the ground, looking down at Julie Haggerty lying on the sand way below him,
but dripping wet with seaweed hanging
dripping
around.
wet with seaweed. And there's another joke where he goes,
"My orders came through. My squadron ships out tomorrow. We're bombing the storage depots at Daiquiri at 1800 hours. We're coming in from the north, below their radar.
When will you be back?
I can't tell you that. It's classified."
I can't tell you. It's classified.
And now Elaine back on the plane brings Joey into the cockpit.
Oh, this is a great scene. Come on.
This is a fantastic scene.
And Peter Graves hands him the toy like, hey, Joey, you ever been in a cockpit before? There's a pause.
You ever seen a grown man naked?
All right, now this particular scene where he's saying all these things to Joey, like, yeah, do you like gladiator movies?
You ever hang around the gymnasium?
You ever been to a Turkish prison? There was a line where Captain Oveur says, "Have you ever seen a grown man's cock?" That was a line.
Wow.
And it was cut.
Good.
Thank God.
Good. Yeah, even by today's standards.
So
saying that to a little kid is a bit much.
Here's a story Peter Graves told. So Peter Graves was very scared of this, as he should be, because he, the star of Mission Impossible and an actor who's been around, is now essentially playing a pedophile. And that's the joke. I mean, I don't think we can get around, like, the joke is that this nice Captain Oveur likes little boys. So then the movie has a screening at the DGA before it opens, and Peter Graves is going, I'm not going to go. The movie's going to be terrible. It's an embarrassment. I should never have done it. This is a big mistake. And finally, they convince him to go. And it is a huge hit. Everyone is laughing. And his response to this, by the way, is like, oh, I guess I am funny, which is actually not the correct conclusion because you were just playing it straight. So then he really enjoyed the fact that everywhere he went, he'd go into an airport, people, oh, Captain Oveur, and they would make this joke, and they would make this joke, and people would walk up to him and say, have you ever seen a grown man naked? And he thought that was great.
Horrified. I'd be horrified if people.
So here's the story that he told, and I don't think this story came off the way he meant it to come off. It was on a video I saw, and he said, so I'm at a grocery store, and there's a mom and her little 9-year-old, 10-year-old kid, whatever, and the kid is just staring at me. And, in the way that as an actor, like somebody's recognized you. And so the kid keeps looking at it, keeps looking, and then he finally walks up to the kid and says, have you ever been in a Turkish prison? And the mom hears this, and looks at him, grabs the kid, and runs out of the grocery store. Oh, no. And he goes, so, you see, people love this movie all over the world. And I'm like, no, I think you just freaked out a mom with her kid. She thought you were a pedophile.
Oh, my God. Peter Graves.
Yeah.
He was the host of A&E. Remember? He was the host of A&E for all those years.
So, and the other thing that happens is that as Captain Oveur is asking these inappropriate questions to Joey is looking over at Kareem and saying, hey, you're Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
I'm sorry, son, but you must have me confused with someone else. My name is Roger Murdoch. I'm the co-pilot.
He's like, no, my dad has season tickets to the Lakers games. He sees you. I've seen you all the time. He says you're pretty lazy.
Says you don't hustle on defense.
Don't hustle on defense.
You can see Kareem is starting to get annoyed. He's starting to get frustrated.
He gets uncomfortable in the seat.
And then he like grabs him by the scruff of his shirt.
Listen, kid. I've been hearing that crap ever since I was at UCLA. I'm out there busting my buns every night. Tell your old man to drag Walton and Lanier up and down the court for 48 minutes.
But again, this kid, just like he gave the stare to the girl with the coffee, so the camera stays on him after Kareem lets him go, and he just has this horrified look on his face, and the camera stays on him for like 4 seconds, which is like a long time, and he just like is looking like totally terrified. Who was that kid? Who played that kid?
I don't have his name here, but he apparently still gets recognized for this. Yeah, to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
As that kid. Ted is now talking to Elaine, and Elaine now says, I remember everything. And this line that she says is entirely from 0 Hour, word for word, except for one part. You try to guess which part's not in 0 Hour.
Mostly I remember the nights when we were together. I remember how you used to hold me, and how I used to sit on your face and wriggle, and afterwards how we'd watch until the sun came up.
I'm going to say sit in your face and wiggle.
That is the line. Other than that, it's word for word from 0 Hour.
Okay, see, I want to watch 0 Hour.
Oh, yeah.
I got to find that baby now.
And she leaves him, and now we have more flashbacks that are growing more ridiculous, and we end up at a flashback to the hospital. I love the sign outside the hospital that says Visa, MasterCard, Pentothal available. And we get Ted is in bed, and she's with him. We got a telegram from headquarters that he's totally cleared from blame.
What's headquarters?
Well, it's a big building where generals meet, but that's not important right now.
But
that's not important right now.
But that's not important right now.
It's a big building with military people.
Thank
That's
you.
not important right now.
I almost rolled over the joke.
Yeah.
Thank you for. I was just reading my notes.
We're getting to my second favorite moment in the movie.
This is the part where you and I realize that John is in on this joke this entire time.
Right.
He's painting.
Yeah.
We see the painting that he's working on.
This guy with a baby and his
His
leg
legs
is over
behind
his
his-
neck.
And then as he continues to do this, we hear, "Hey, Stryker, how about a break?" And he goes, "Okay." We cut to that he has a model of a dude with a baby.
It's like, thanks. And this is also where Elaine, Joey Haggard, starts looking at some of the other patients.
Yeah.
And then you hear someone moaning, oh, and then Stryker says, "Oh yeah, he thinks he's Ethel Merman."
You'll be swell. You'll be great. Gonna have the whole world on a plate. Starting here, starting now. Honey, everything's coming up right.
Okay, that scene was Ethel Merman's final on-screen performance before she died in 1984. It was an airplane.
It's my second favorite moment in the movie.
Did you laugh?
I laughed my nuts off because I am of that age where I remember Ethel.
Yeah.
And Ethel was royalty. I used to watch her on variety shows growing up as a kid. So I forgot that she was in the movie.
She showed up with her own entourage.
Of course.
To do her hair.
It's
Of course.
Ethel.
Yes.
When she comes out of the bed and she's, "You'll be rich." It's just the way she commands the scene.
Yeah.
Even at that age, I was just like so fan. And then then she plays it so well because when they put her in the bed, she goes, "Everything's coming out roses."
No, she's great.
It's so perfect.
And the other important thing we find out in this scene is that Ted says something about 5 men were killed, and she says, "Oh, 6. George Zip died this morning."
George Zip.
George Zip.
George Zip.
Back on the plane, Randy, the other stewardess, offers some coffee, and she says, "Oh, I'll have a cup," but Jim won't. And then he says, "No, I think I will have a cup."
Jim never has a second cup of coffee at home.
This joke is
Very
really from
dated.
an era. Yeah.
Very dated. Yeah, those coffee commercials. I still remember those coffee commercials. But most people listening to this podcast of the Cinephiles will probably not get that joke.
One thing we haven't mentioned is the little girl that's on the plane because she's going to have a heart transplant.
Right.
And this is Jill. No, I don't have her name.
Jill Whelan from The Love Boat.
From The Love Boat. Plays Vicky
Captain
from The Love
Stubing's
Boat.
what, granddaughter?
Daughter.
Yeah. Daughter? Really? Captain Stubing had a daughter?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Like Captain, I just thought Captain Stubing
He's a
was older
captain's
than
son.
that.
He's having kids till he was 70 or 80, I'm sure, when you're a captain.
Damn.
That's
Captain
gets around.
Captain
Captain
McLeod.
Stubing gets around.
And Randy, our stewardess, asked to borrow the guitar from a nun. Originally, they were going to have the nun sing, but because it was at Paramount and they had the singing nun, they didn't want to do that.
You know who the nun is?
No.
Maureen McGovern, who can actually sing and had hits in the 70s and 80s with her soft rock music.
Well, the flight attendant, I mean, they called her steward. They called them stewardesses back in the day. But somewhere along the line, stewardess became a politically incorrect term. So now they're referred to as flight attendants. But that was Randy, played by Lorna Patterson. And I remember thinking, wow, she even as an 11-year-old thinking, wow, she is really hot. And about a year after Airplane came out, she played Private Benjamin in the TV version, the TV series based on the movie that originally starred Goldie Hawn, which also came out in 1980. And Lorna Patterson played Private Benjamin on that show for 2 years.
I totally remember watching it.
Yep.
I remember loving that movie. I haven't seen that.
Private Benjamin is a good movie.
Is it still a good movie?
One of Goldie Hawn's best performances.
Still holds up too, yeah.
So Lorna Patterson, this is her audition process. She comes in, they really like her, and they go, "Oh no, we forgot to ask if you can sing. Do you know if you can you sing?" And she says, "Yeah, I'm a singer." And they go, "Really? Do you have any?" She's like, "Well, I was going to this other thing, and I have my backup tape, like tape with the music for me to sing to. If you have a tape player, we can put it in, and then I can sing." And they go, "We don't." And they had just a crappy office that she described as like a dorm room. And they go, "Well, we don't have a tape player here." And one of the Zucker brothers, I don't remember which one, says, "I got a tape deck in my Volvo." And so they go out of the office, go to the parking lot. The 3 directors get in the front seat. She gets in the back seat. They put the tape deck in the Volvo, she sings, and that is her audition for this movie.
Well, the song that she sings on the plane is River of Jordan.
I traveled the banks of the River of Jordan to find where it flows to the sea.
but while she's playing with the guitar, she knocks the IV out of the girl's arms. And everybody on the plane is so into the song and having so much fun singing along with the song that they're completely oblivious to the fact that the girl is dying because the IV was knocked out of her arm.
And again, I thought this was so funny, particularly the fish face when she makes the fish face.
She makes the fish face.
The song is by Peter Yarrow of Peter, Paul, and Mary.
Oh.
And they had heard it somewhere, and they got the rights to the song, but he didn't know anything about the kind of movie it was in. Apparently, he had written this song as a spiritual, important thing for a friend's wedding. And this is folk singer guy. And when he saw this movie, he was mortified and furious.
Way.
Yeah, because they took his important song about God and love and all these things that they had.
And they crapped all over it.
They did.
Well, yes and no, because everyone is singing along together as one.
True.
Well, and the montage of all the looks during this song are
also
hilarious.
Yeah.
In the cockpit, they're getting their dinner, and Ted is telling his story now to a Japanese colonel played by James Hong. That is David Lopan himself.
Yep.
And he played, he was in Blade Runner, and he's been a very
Tons of
famous
stuff.
character, tons of stuff. Yeah.
Tons and tons of stuff. And he talks about their experiences in the Peace Corps.
He's wearing his Japanese uniform from World War II.
Because it's a World War II movie.
Yeah.
Even then, it doesn't make sense. Even in 1957. And then we have, him introducing himself to the natives in Africa somewhere, and then her at a Tupperware party with elephants going by in the background, and him teaching these guys basketball. Which they pick up strangely quickly.
This is fascinatingly prescient for 1980. We did not have African players in the NBA who came over from Africa to play. In the late 80s, that started to become a thing. With,
Oh, wow.
Yeah, with Hakeem Olajuwon, Dikembe Mutombo, all these people coming from
They're
Africa
all shooting, getting right in the.
It was so funny. I was watching this going, oh my God, this is so prescient for 1980.
I, for years as a kid, was convinced that they had gotten the Harlem Globetrotters. It's not.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
it's not at all.
Because they're all shooting, they're all getting it all in.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shows what I knew. And now there's this woman who's getting sick, and her description is, I haven't felt this bad since that Ronald Reagan
movie.
We asked to find a doctor, and this joke, I love this joke, is they're walking down, do you know a doctor? And someone says, stewardess, I think this
The man next to me is a doctor.
And you cut to Leslie Nielsen.
Leslie Nielsen
With a stethoscope on.
With the stethoscope while he's sleeping.
Dr. Rumack. Yeah. Do we actually ever hear him referred to by his name?
I think they do later on, yeah.
Okay,
They say it
so
once.
Leslie Nielsen, up to that point, he was famous for The Poseidon Adventure. He was famous for Forbidden Planet. And in one fell swoop, talk about a late career reinvention. What Airplane did to Leslie Nielsen, it gave him a whole other career for the second half of his life.
Yeah.
Because after Airplane, he did Police Squad on TV. He did the Naked Gun movies. He did all those spoofs of, what was the spoof of The Fugitive, Wrongly Accused.
Spy Hard.
Yeah, Spy Hard.
Yeah.
And with the exception of the first Naked Gun movie.
Oh, and Dracula Dead. And
Nothing,
Loving It, right?
Dracula Dead and Loving It, the Mel Brooks movie.
Yeah, right.
With the exception of the first Naked Gun movie, and the Naked Gun and the Police Squad TV show, which was on for 6 episodes, nothing Leslie Nielsen did matched just how great he was, joke for joke, in Airplane. And he plays his character in Airplane just as straight as he played the ship captain in the Poseidon Adventure. But the comedy is hilarious because of his delivery.
So here's something they said is they have the first table read. And Leslie Nielsen's pretty desperate career-wise at this point because he's like, it's getting over for me, And they do the first table read, and he wasn't that funny. And they said his tone was just not right. And so their solution was they gave him the VHS tape of 0 Hour. He took it home. He watched it that night. He came back. He's like, got it. By the way, they had the VHS tape and a VCR and a TV on the set. And if you look, you can see comparisons. It is shot for shot.
Wow.
And it's just simple. It's like they set up a shot and there's not a lot of coverage. They're not editing a lot. It's like we're in a 2-shot and it's just the framing is the same.
Doctor. He's sitting there with the stethoscope. He goes, I'm a doctor.
And the exam is that he comes up and does this magic trick. He's like, there are eggs coming out of her mouth and then another one. And then I love it too. He reaches out and someone hands him an instrument, and then he
just like in an OR.
Yeah. And then he breaks the egg and has
Bird
this
flies
reaction of like as the bird flies away.
All right, now this is where he pulls Elaine aside, and we have one of the great conversations.
This woman has to be gotten to a hospital.
A hospital? What is it?
It's a big building with patients, but that's not important right now.
But that's not important right now. Come on, it's hilarious.
These jokes were, because this is the thing too. This is a style of comedy that hadn't been done.
Yeah.
Like just and as you say, they are dad jokes. A lot of them are just silly wordplay. Up at the cockpit, the navigator goes out, and Captain Oveur jumps up and says, "Okay, Roger, you take over." Who started to sweat? And this conversation between Oveur and the doctor is fantastic.
Captain, how soon can you land?
I can't tell.
You can tell me I'm a doctor.
No, I mean, I'm just not sure.
Or can't you take a guess?
Well, not for another 2 hours.
You can't take a guess for another 2 hours?
I mean, that's like Who's on First level of good comic wordplay. And then we hit some turbulence, and there's apparently the man that Randy hits in the face with the plate of food, he was the asshole of the extras. And she hit him on purpose.
Oh,
apparently.
Wow.
Whoa, way to go, Lorna.
And then we're back in the cockpit, and they pull Kareem out of the chair. And what does he have? He's wearing his goggles, shorts, knee pads. That's just a great joke.
So this is where Captain Oveur takes the seat again.
And asks what's wrong. He says, and the doctor says, "I'm not sure. I haven't seen anything like this since the Anita Bryant concert." Which, again, is a joke that no one today will get.
Right.
But for those of you who don't know, she is a singer, but a woman who was radically against gay rights in the late 70s and early 80s. Yeah.
Remember that? That's right.
Yeah.
This is also a scene. I think it's the scene where he asks Elaine about what the passengers had for dinner.
Well, we had a choice, steak or fish.
Yes, I remember. I had lasagna.
And as they're dragging the bodies through the aisle, Over's making an announcement. On your left, you can see Hoover Dam. On your right, the Great, and everyone just looks away. And they start talking about, look, everybody we've talked to has had fish. And Nielsen says, all the people who've had fish tonight are going to get sick. And Oveur looks down right next to him. Fish.
A fish skeleton. Not just, like
a whole fish.
Yeah, a whole fish skeleton. So that watching this movie, that he had fish.
And I think the combo of Leslie Nielsen's monologue about the symptoms and Peter Graves' reactions are fantastic.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Starts with the slight fever, dryness of the throat. As the virus penetrates the red blood cells, the victim becomes dizzy. Begins to experience an itching, a rash. From there, the poison goes to work on the central nervous system, causing severe muscle spasms, followed by the inevitable drooling.
I remember the scene specifically because he starts talking about spasms and Peter Graves is starting to have spasms and he throws up a little bit on his shirt and then he goes uncontrollable flatulence.
Until finally the poor bastard is reduced to a quivering, wasted piece of jelly.
Apparently, Leslie Nielsen had a little fart gimmick that he liked to carry around and fart at people. How you doing? He would do this all the time. And in the interviews on the Blu-ray, he has it and uses it.
How funny.
Really funny.
That's great.
And now he starts to collapse and the plane starts going down and we have the cut, which this joke for my 11-year-old self was hilarious. Camera moves from bouncing jello to bouncing boobs.
Yep.
That is the level of my sense of humor in 1980.
I think that's who they made it for.
They did. They made it perfectly for me. And just as they're pulling Captain Oveur out, he says, automatic pilot.
Oh, this is when we are introduced to
Otto.
The automatic pilot is literally an automatic pilot, a big balloon painted and drawn like a pilot.
Whoever drew this understood the movie.
Yeah.
Because that just stupid grin on his face, happy, whatever. and the size of him just works so brilliantly.
And
yeah, exactly.
There we go.
I mean, like, that's how brilliant it is.
You like movies about gladiators?
and we cut to, and we get a call on the radio from Steve McCroskey in Chicago. Lloyd Bridges.
Lloyd Bridges. I mean, so the interesting thing is that this movie, I mean, having not seen Zero Hour, the way when that happens, when it cuts to the air traffic control in Chicago, it turns into a different film. It's still a spoof. It's still a comedy, but the tone of it, like you're introduced. This is now the halfway point of the movie, and you're introduced to all these new characters that feel like they were a part of the movie the entire time because they're so memorable and fully realized. I mean, obviously, you have Lloyd Bridges as McCroskey. You have Johnny.
Steven Stucker, I think.
Steven Stucker, Johnny, who improvised and ad-libbed all of his lines.
Is that the supposedly
guy?
gay?
Yes.
Well, he never says he's gay.
No,
never says he's gay.
They get away with it by never saying that he's gay.
So he was a buddy of theirs from the Kentucky Fried Theater in Madison. And what they said when they hired him, he's the only person they did this with, is all they did was give him the straight lines. And they said, you come up with, because they said, we can't come up with the things you'll come up with. And this is all stuff that he made up. Some on the set, some beforehand.
Yeah.
For instance, how about some coffee, Johnny?
Oh, thanks.
And he's giving out these orders and for some reason, two guys who are Siamese twins, and he gives them different instructions and they try to go in different directions.
Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit smoking.
Lloyd Bridges, another actor, serious actor.
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, he was Mike Nelson in Sea Hunt.
Yep.
And after this film, he also had a career of resurgence, much like Leslie Nielsen. Remember Hot Shots and Hot Shots Part 2? You know, Lloyd Bridges is funny.
He is. In this, apparently Robert Stack several times turned to Lloyd Bridges and went, is this supposed to be funny? Is this supposed to be a joke? And Lloyd turned back to him and said, we're the joke. Which is true.
It is true.
Is this supposed to be funny?
And Elaine is now sitting in the pilot seat with Otto, the automatic pilot, in the co-pilot seat. And she's given readings of airspeed and altitude. And the altitude's going down. It's going down.
No, it's dropping. It's dropping fast. Why is it doing that? Oh my God, the automatic pilot, it's deflating.
And we could see Otto deflating.
Because the air is going out of him.
And they go, oh, well, you're going to have to do the manual inflation just under his belt, his tab. And she bends over towards this inflatable.
Blowing him.
Yep.
Okay, another 11-year-old moment. I turned to my mom. I said, I don't get it. Why is Otto smiling? Why is this doll smiling? He turns to the camera. He's got a smile on his face. And then, what is it? Stryker comes back in and he sees...
No. The doctor comes in, walks in, opens the door, sees her giving him a blowjob, essentially, closes the door. And then Leslie Nielsen's take is he might have the best take.
Oh, yeah.
Like since Jack Benny. Like just that look of, what did I just see? Yeah. And then a moment later, after he's inflated, we see that they're both sitting there and she's smoking a cigarette.
They're both smoking a cigarette.
Oh, is he smoking a cigarette
yes,
too?
That's what's so insane. He's what the fuck is he smoking a cigarette?
Doctor comes in and says, can you face some unpleasant facts?
No.
All right. Unless I get all those people to a hospital quickly, I can't even be sure of saving their lives. Now, is there anyone on board who can land this plane?
All this dialogue, again, 0 hour. Yeah. It's all out of 0 hour. Including this line. This line is word for word in 0 hour.
I think you ought to know what our chances are.
The life of everyone on board depends upon just one thing.
Finding someone back there who not only can fly this plane,
but who didn't have fish for dinner.
That is from 0 hour, and that is that line is the reason this movie exists. They're watching this movie. When they got to that line, they thought that was the funniest thing in the world. Oh my God. And as now they're dragging the pilot out, the stewardess says,
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your stewardess speaking. We regret any inconvenience the sudden cabin movement might have caused. This is due to periodic air pockets we encountered. There's no reason to become alarmed, and we hope you enjoy the rest of your flight. By the way, is there anyone on board who knows how to fly a plane?
And so everybody starts, okay, another 11-year-old moment.
Yes.
Okay, everybody, all the passengers start freaking out. And then for about 3 seconds,
randomly,
a topless woman
just bounces in front of the
couch. Just for no reason at all.
And her boobs are jiggling. And she like stands there for a second.
And then leaves.
Like, what the hell is going on this
I
plane?
thought it was a gift directly to me.
But I'm watching this movie, and trivia for movie Nance. That was the first time I saw boobies in a movie. That was it.
I had seen Animal House.
Right.
So I saw Animal House on Showtime or something right before this. So these were my second.
Fucker.
And then and the other panic stuff is great too. The Krishnas fighting and there's sword fighting. I mean, there's all sorts of crazy things that are going on. A Mustang.
Isn't there like a lights, like certain rows don't do this, the other rows don't have sex?
Oh yeah. That comes up too.
With the panic thing,
the crash position.
Yeah,
what I didn't say long time ago, but you had the sign says no smoking, no smoke a you.
Yeah. The Italian thing.
A Mustang pulls up at a house to pick up Captain Kramer. That is Robert Hayes' Mustang. He got paid $35 a day for the use of that car.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's a gag in this scene as he goes inside. This young guy gets attacked by the dog, and Robert Stack comes downstairs. There is a mirror gag, which is that he comes downstairs and is fixing himself in the mirror. Well, in the background, we see the guy getting mauled by the dog, and then you cut to the guy getting mauled by the dog, and you cut back, and Robert Stack steps through what had been a mirror because there is no mirror anymore.
Yeah.
And they worked really hard on this. Nobody ever laughed. And if you watch, and because a lot of people, I had to, you either see it or you don't, and mostly you kind of go, did something weird happen? It feels like something weird happened. So when they did Top Secret, they did a massive mirror gag to prove that this was funny,
Wow.
But it doesn't quite play here. So Robert Stack, they wanted Robert Stack to do the part, and he's another buddy of Howard Koch's. But what they really wanted, do you remember John Biner, the comedian? So he had the TV show Bizarre, and he was an impressionist and not a terribly famous one, but he did the Ed Sullivan Show and stuff like that. He did an impression of Robert Stack. When Robert Stack came in, they say that this is true. They didn't like his performance because they really wanted John Biner's impression of Robert Stack. So they showed Robert Stack, John Biner, doing an impression of him, and he went, oh, I got it. And then he did an impression of John Biner's impression of himself.
Oh,
and
wow.
that is his
That's
performance in the
fantastic.
movie. That's what they say.
Kudos to all these established actors being willing
to get it.
Yeah, to get it. To
Like
do
they
this.
didn't get it,
Yeah.
and then whether it's somebody watching Zero Hour, and come back and okay, I got it. But that's a testament to the talent, like in the commitment of these actors that they wanted to figure it out.
Or that they just wanted the gig, and because a lot of them say they didn't really know what the hell was going on, because what's so weird about this movie is they're all playing it straight. Nobody's playing things for comedy.
And the movie was shot in 34 days too,
Yeah.
so it wasn't like they had a lot of time to, just like keep the production going for months.
We come back to the plane. Oh, you know what I should have said is after we finished the last flashback, our Japanese colonel committed ritual suicide.
Harikari.
And now we're back on the plane. He's speaking to an Indian man about drainage or something, who pours gasoline on himself and is holding a lit match when Randy comes up to ask if he could fly a plane.
Yeah.
And the guy goes, yeah, please go fly the plane, blows out the match just as he goes away. There's
Then
still
it
an
blows up.
explosion. Yeah. And of course, he walks into the cockpit and he's been told, oh, we need some help with the radio. And now actually sees that there's just the autopilot there. And Leslie Nielsen says, can you fly this plane and land it?
Surely you can't be serious.
I am serious. And don't call me Shirley.
Now that is the classic airplane joke.
Classic line, number 79 on the AFI Top 100 Greatest Movie Quotes of All Time.
Wow.
I am serious and don't call me Shirley. This Blu-ray is the Don't Call Me Shirley edition. Great line. And not the first time in the movie that we hear that line.
Here's a joke I didn't get forever. I don't know why. I was just stupid, but I did not get it. It's an entirely different kind of flying altogether.
It's an entirely different kind of flying.
So the reason for that, like, it's an entirely different kind of flying altogether. So okay, all together now.
All
It's an
together
entirely
now.
different kind of flying.
Yes. I probably had seen the movie 20 or 30 times where I went.
Well, that's a joke where you go, it took a second.
And they say, you're the only chance we got, and the music hits. And he looks at the instruments. And this pan across all the instruments is in 0 Hour, except in 0 Hour it's a few instruments, and this goes on and on and on and on and on.
I gotta watch 0 Hour, like ASAP.
We have Rex Kramer driving in the Mustang in a process shot, and this is a process shot joke. You know, because they hit a guy with a bicycle, and then it's going really fast.
Asshole!
And then we have Indians in the background, and yeah.
So much. Like they threw everything, including the kitchen sink, into the making of this movie.
There is no kitchen sink in this movie.
Yeah.
There should be.
The shit does
But
hit the
there is
fan.
a watermelon that falls
Yeah,
out,
exactly.
out of this alien.
At one point, we're back in the cockpit, and the doctor says, everyone in this plane is in a desperate situation. Mr. Stryker is the only hope we've got. And the little Jesus statue in the front covers its eyes. And he's looking around the controls. He goes, this must turn on the landing light. It wasn't the landing light. Hughes shakes and panics.
Mayday! 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 Mayday, what the hell is that?
Mayday? Why, that's the Russian New Year. You know, we'll have a big parade and we'll serve hot hors d'oeuvres.
I love
Oh,
Johnny.
yeah. He stole the movie, really.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
Everybody remembers him. It's a twister. It's a twister.
And yet he didn't work that much.
No, he died in like 1986 or something
did he?
like that.
Wow.
He was, he was, I think he died of AIDS.
Jesus.
Woman starts to panic, go up to slap her.
This is a great scene.
Right out of 0 Hour.
Really?
Woman panics. None shakes her and slaps her.
But in Airplane, people are lined up. And the great thing is like after the nun slaps her, so Leslie Nielsen goes up and he's like shaking her and snap out of it and he slaps her. And then someone behind her is like,
and Nielsen slaps her and then walking away gives her an extra one just for good measure.
well, he gives her, but that's the great thing is that when he's ready to walk away and he gives her another slap, he really slapped her.
Yeah.
oh my God. Oh, we're going to die.
And then the camera pans back to a guy with a wrench and boxing gloves.
Somebody with a gun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I didn't like this moment. I gotta be honest with you.
Oh, come on, John.
It's violence against women, man. And you got all men lined up with varying
my God.
worse ways to do this violence against a woman. So I wasn't. I didn't think it was a good joke nowadays, but I remember probably laughing at it when I was younger.
Well, it's a funny thing. It's like
because it's the escalation of
the panic. And the panic and you're out of control and need to be slapped is a cliche of old movies.
Right.
And so they're playing a joke on the cliche of old
Well, I get
movies.
it, yeah.
But, well, this is the thing about this movie is like, okay, what's okay to joke about?
Right.
You know?
Personal taste like always, I guess.
Absolutely. Rex gets to the airport, and this is awesome because those religious guys that are offering flowers and this, he fights through all of them.
That is funny.
It's awesome.
All him.
And
it's all him. The flip around is amazing.
Yeah, it's great.
You're like, what?
We have a line of no frills passengers arriving now, and there are all these people coming down the luggage spinner. There's a guy on the phone.
I know, but this guy doing the flying has no airline experience at all. He's a menace to himself and everything else in the air. Yes, birds too.
It's just... And Rex comes in and takes off his glasses.
And there's another pair of glasses.
Another pair of
Oh my
glasses.
God.
I even didn't watch Airplane 2 I maybe saw it a few times.
Saw it once, and it was only because of William Shatner.
Oh yeah, Shatner's in. That's right.
But they do the cardinal sin of comedy sequels, which is they just repeat all the jokes. And I remember that one being one of them. And as they're talking about Ted, because he knows him from the war, a spear goes across and lands on the wall. No laugh.
No.
So there are 3 or 4 things: the mirror joke, the spear, and the watermelon, and also the throwing the cigarette out the window for the explosion, that the 3 directors thought were the funniest things in the world. And when they
laugh.
And nobody else. So they're in the test screenings and they're in hysterics in the silent theater. Theaters are going nuts for everything else.
Watermelon falling from the ceiling was hilarious.
They don't think they did not play.
It's like I picked the wrong week to quit drinking.
They get Stryker on the radio, and Stryker immediately recognizes Kramer's voice.
Let's not kid each other, Kramer. You know I've never flown a bucket like this. I'm gonna need all the luck there is.
And he kind of asks him, well, have you flown to this or that? No. And then Kramer goes, well, there's no way this guy can land this thing. Well, still having the button on. We're going to repeat that joke. And then he says,
you listen close. Flying a plane is no different than riding a bicycle.
Which is a line out of 0 Hour.
Unbelievable.
But it's really hard to put your baseball cards in the spokes is not a line in 0 Hour.
0 Hour. I gotta watch 0 Hour.
We unlock.
This is an unofficial Cinephiles on 0 Hour.
That's all we're probably going to get.
True.
And the passengers start to get angry. Leslie Nielsen comes out and says that everything's fine, and we watch his nose start to grow and grow. I love that he says,
But the other two pilots are just fine. They're at the controls flying the plane, free to pursue a life of religious fulfillment.
as his nose grows, the really long ones, that's just a broom handle.
Oh, is it?
They just painted a broom handle flesh-colored and waved it in front of the camera. That's how they did that. It's not a lot of money on this movie. And we're back in the cockpit, and from the control tower, they're saying, look, there's no reason you can't get out of this in one piece. And sitting behind them is now a vulture. And now we get our jive guys. And one of them is really, really sick, and the stewardess can't talk to them. And up comes...
Stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, stewardess, I speak jive.
Oh, good.
So what we have to explain for our younger viewer is that the jive lady is Barbara Billingsley.
Mm-hmm.
Mrs. Cleaver from Leave It to Beaver, which I watched over and over and over again as a kid.
Me too.
And apparently, I forget their names now, but our jive guys taught her how to say all these things. They thought she was great, and it is so funny.
Would you tell him to just relax, and I'll be back as soon as I can with some medicine?
Just hang loose, blood. She gonna catch up on the rebound on the med side.
What it is, Big Mama? My mama raised no dummies. I duck a rap.
Cut me some slack, Jack.
Say cutting
Chump don't want to help, Chump don't get the help.
Say can't hang, say 7 Up.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains anyhow.
Chum don't want no help. Chum don't get no help. I'm sorry, this scene still works for me. Because she's not saying it disrespectfully, right? She's legitimately speaking jive, going back and forth with them, and then gets upset when one of them like tries to be offended that she's saying what she's saying. She's saying, John don't want no help. John don't get no help.
Jive ass dude don't got no brains anyhow.
So perfect.
They get a weather bulletin. We hand it to Johnny. Johnny, what can you make out of this?
This? Well, I can make a cap, or a brooch, a pterodactyl.
I can make a plane.
A hat? Brooch?
Little hat.
A little pterodactyl? So we cut to Mrs. Oveur, Captain Over's wife.
Oh, boy.
Had to wake her up.
Oh.
This joke I did not understand.
What in the world? Again, going back to 11 years old.
Okay.
I had no idea.
You guys get it now, though, right?
Rewatching that movie now at 50, it is still going like, what the hell is she doing in bed with a friggin' horse?
And they wake her up, and I love that she says, let yourself out. Yeah. There's juice in the refrigerator.
Right.
So here's the thought that I had. I'm going to get it a little dark for a minute. This is the thought that I had. Is only watching it last week did I go, wait, this is Captain Over's wife.
Yeah.
Captain Oveur is a pedophile. Is so that he is sleeping with little boys,
right?
Probably. And her only recourse is the horse.
Sex with a horse.
I mean, there's some... did they on purpose connect?
I don't think so.
Who came up with that? Who thought of that?
Shit. Because then what happens when she gets she's all over Rex Kramer.
Right.
I mean, clearly, I don't know, it's a weird...
She's sex starved. Why wouldn't she be?
She's sex starved.
When she's with a pedophile, because he's not going to have sex with her.
I mean, this is a really fucked up, dark thing to be talking about.
I thought it was funny as shit. I'd like to see the horse in there, like her.
Yeah, about there's juice in the fridge.
Of course, because you know.
Back in the cockpit, Ted Kramer has to concentrate.
Hello? Echo. Pinch hitting for Pedro Bourbon. Manny Mota.
There's a gag where they try to turn on the air and it blows a lot of wind through everybody.
Just totally unnecessary.
They call Chicago and say the passengers are beginning to panic. We better check the radar range. And we cut to this guy who is Gunderson or something. And they say, check the radar range. And it's a microwave with a turkey in it.
It's about 2 more minutes, Chief.
Do you know who that guy is?
No.
That's Jonathan Banks.
Yep, Jonathan Banks. From
Breaking Bad.
Breaking Bad.
And Better Call Saul.
And Better Call Saul.
Oh my gosh, you're right.
Yeah.
Beverly Hills Cop.
Right, Beverly Hills Cop.
Oh
right.
my gosh.
That's right.
Yeah, and it goes, what an asshole, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
He's got curly hair, curly 70s hair.
Yep.
It could be miles, of course. That's impossible. They're on instruments. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit amphetamines.
And some reporters come in and they're talking to Lloyd, and he hands them off to Johnny. They ask him about the plane.
Oh, it's a big, pretty white plane with red stripes and curtains in the window and wheels, and it looks like a big Tylenol.
And one of the microphones is an ice cream cone. And now we get the spinning newspapers of the, plane going to crash and no hope for passengers. Boy trapped in refrigerator eats his own foot. That kid is Howard Koch, the producer's grandson, and that is his second grade picture.
Oh, wow.
Where apparently he cut his own hair, and he's very embarrassed that picture has been immortalized. And now we cut to the TV reporters, which we talked about a long time ago.
Yeah.
And the first one is just someone getting handed a bulletin, and there's a picture of the plane in the background. And the second one is Japanese, and they're handed a bulletin, and now it's a scroll of a plane. The third one is, I think this joke is funny. It might be offensive, but it's a guy drumming the news. And then someone hands him, rather than handing him a piece of paper, they hand him new drumsticks. And I love the thing that sells the joke to me is that he's...
Turns the camera.
Exactly.
Turns to another camera.
B.
Yeah.
He's like, he's in camera A, and then he goes over to camera B. That's what makes the joke. It's the turn that makes it really good. And then we get, which we talked about a long time ago, point counterpoint.
Shayna, they bought their tickets. They knew what they were getting into. I say, let them crash.
Yeah.
I say, let him crash.
On the plane, a guy takes a swig out of a flask and offers it to the lady. That is in 0 hour.
Oh, how
the
funny.
herd saying no thank you and taking
snorting cocaine?
Not
at zero.
Not at zero.
I won't deceive you, Mr. Stryker. We're running out of time.
Surely there must be something you can do.
I'm doing everything I can. And stop calling me Shirley.
The nun, now with the guitar, is singing respect to the Jive guys.
Oh my God, so good.
Sock it to me, 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 sock it to me. A little bit.
Suck it to me, suck it to me, suck it to me,
suck me. Jim never vomits at home. Then we have a scene with the stewardess who is, I'm scared. I've never been so scared. And
I've never been married.
And I'm not married.
26.
And then in walks the wife saying, I've never been so scared, but at least I have a husband. For Ted in the cockpit, the controls are going blurry and he's having a flashback. And this is where it goes into the ridiculous plane crash, biplanes, bouncy planes, people, like totally ridiculous thing. One of the engines go out.
The oil pressure. I forgot to check the oil pressure. When Kramer hears about this, the shit's gonna hit the fan.
You see the shit hitting there.
I thought that was so damn funny. Apparently, there was a lot of discussion on how to make the shit.
I'm sure.
By the way, the shit hits the fan and it stays in the fan for like a second, and then it falls out of the fan.
It is good shit consistency for that particular joke.
That's it. But like that's what makes that joke. It's the shit hits the fan and it kind of stays there for a second.
Well, because the thing
and
is,
then it falls out of the fan.
having made things as props to like work a certain way, you have a spinning fan. You have no idea what's going to happen with this. It could have gone who knows?
Truth.
Stryker, that plane can't land itself. It takes a pilot who can handle pressure. Ease off, Rex. He hasn't flown for years. It's not his fault. Could happen to any pilot.
It happened to Barbara Stanwyck.
You push him too hard, he might break. Gotta remember who you're dealing with.
Nick, Pete, Jared, there's a fire in the barn.
And at this point, Ted chickens out. Puts Otto back in the chair. Back in the control tower, we hear the fog is getting thicker.
And Leon is getting larger.
For no random reason at all.
The Johnny jokes are just the funniest thing in history, I thought.
Really, everybody remembers those lines.
Yeah. And Ted said, so we haven't even talked about his drinking problem. That's when my drinking problem started. And he just, water in his face. And the doc comes up and says,
I was in the war myself, medical corps. I was on late duty one night when they brought in a badly wounded pilot from one of the raids. He looked up at me and Doc, he said, The odds were against us up there, but we went in anyway. Captain made the right decision. Pilot's name was George Zip.
George Zip.
Right.
So I don't think I knew about Newt Rockne All-American, but I had heard the term "win one more" for the Gipper.
Yeah, for the Gipper.
I didn't know that part was played by Ronald Reagan.
Yep.
Oh, because this is like right when he was running for president.
He just got elected president, or he's running. You're right. You're right.
He's running. He's a governor of
Yeah.
California, so it makes sense.
Yeah. He wasn't governor then, but
he
he
wasn't?
had
Oh.
been governor. No, he's governor in the 60s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And he says,
sometime the crew is up against it. The brakes are beating the boys. Tell them to get out there and give it all they've got. And win just one for the Zipper.
that's a long way to go for that joke, because they planned George Zip a long time ago.
Yeah, they did.
And we're hearing the music build in the background. It is the Notre Dame fight song.
I don't know where I'll be then, Doc, he said. That won't smell too good, that's for sure.
It's another joke that's sort of a sleeper. Wait, it won't smell too... Oh, he's talking about that he's going to be a decaying corpse.
Excuse me, Doc. I've got a plane to land.
And Ted gets up, and he gets into the cockpit, he gets into the seat, and now he's taking control. Really, Zero Hour is a classically structured film. He has a clear character flaw that he will resolve in the climax of the film in order to be the hero. It works just right. And now he has resolved his problem. He's taken charge. And they're trying to say, stay up. And he says,
No dice, Chicago. I'm giving the orders and we're coming in. I guess the foot's on the other hand now, isn't it, Kramer?
It's like, that didn't sound...
That didn't make
That didn't come out right. And then I love Rex Kramer's.
It's his ship now, his command. He's in charge. He's the boss, head man, top dog.
And it goes on and on and on. They get a newspaper, and they're each looking at articles.
Passengers certain to die. Airline negligent.
There's a sale at Penny's.
There's a sale at Penny's.
Me, John, big tree.
He's just crazy.
Let's go to the tower.
The tower! The tower! Rapunzel! Rapunzel!
And then Barbara Billingsley asks the stewardess, really sweetly, how soon are we going to land? They say, oh, it won't be much longer now. And she's wearing headphones, and we cut to the movie they're watching.
It's a plane crash.
Which is a plane crash.
Yeah.
Which, that is the part of the movie they cut out when they showed this movie on planes.
I'm surprised they even showed airplane.
They did show it on airplanes.
Oh my gosh.
We go up to the tower where a referee makes an introductions. Captain this point, Captain McCroskey, this is Captain Kramer, Captain this. And there's a joke which, I don't know, I think this movie earns a lot of laughs because I've been laughing so much. One of the guys has got his finger in their ear. And
yeah, take that finger out of your ear. You don't know where it's been.
And then he smells it.
Oh,
the smell
it was
is
so gross.
And Mrs. Oveur shows up, and she's kind of all over Kramer, and Johnny is right next to her, staring at her. And in a moment's pause, he said, "Where did you get that dress? It's
awful.
Shoes and that coat."
Instead of being comforting.
The air traffic controllers are playing like an Atari video game.
Yep.
He says, "I want every light poured on that field." Cut to
lights being poured out of a truck, dumped onto the field.
We call for every emergency vehicle, and you get this parade of first, fire trucks and police cars and ambulances, and then cement mixers and school buses. They call off the Air Israel flight, which has a Hasidic beard in the front.
Yeah.
Randy shows them how to inflate their life jackets, which pops into a duck. Apparently, they only had 2 of these. They only do 2 takes. And to make it work, they had these CO2 cans that she had to wear under her blouse. And no one told them that when CO2 shoots out, it's super cold, like super cold.
Oh, yeah.
So she did the first one. And, you ever had the thing where something super cold feels like it's really hot? She's thought she was on fire. So she starts screaming, it's burning. And they're like, oh, you're acting. She's like, no, this is terrible. So this is take 2.
Oh, wow.
Because it's the second one they had. And now he's trying to fly in the plane to land. He's like, too erratic. You got to come in straight. And we send Randy away to get strapped in.
You better leave, sweetheart. You might get hurt up here.
And Elaine turns to him and says, with the romantic music from Elmer Bernstein,
I wanted you to know now. I'm very proud.
Tell him the gear is down and we're ready to land.
The gear is down, and we're ready to land.
And then we say, put out all the runway lights except Niner. And someone says, well, shouldn't we put on the searchlights now?
Oh. That's just what they'll be expecting us to do.
Nielsen comes in and says,
I just want to tell you both good luck. We're all counting on you.
Also from 0 Hour. Wow. So one of the things that's funny, because he's going to come in multiple times. Once when they're in the middle of the landing, and then again
after
they landed. Well, one of the things that's fun about filmmaking, and it's particularly fun for this joke, is you don't shoot in sequence. So they just shot all three of those right next to each other, of course. They didn't shoot them because it's just the same shot of a dude opening a door. So they have the dude open the door, and then the second time they say, okay, everybody shake. And everyone shakes. He does the same thing. And then they say, okay, everyone don't shake. It's over. He does the same thing. They probably shot it in 10 minutes.
Yeah. Wow.
Because it's easy.
You're right. You know? Shoot out of sequence.
Sure is quiet out there. Yeah, too quiet. Looks like I picked the wrong week to quit sniffing glue.
I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know there was a thing that was called sniffing glue.
I didn't either.
I had no idea what they're talking
did
about.
not know.
Yeah, didn't understand that joke.
I'm happy you didn't understand that joke, either of you.
Yeah.
If you'd known at 10 years old.
Yeah, something's wrong.
That's a fair point. Somebody did. We cut to a Dalmatian sitting on a fire truck. Apparently, and I cannot believe that this is true, the Dalmatian is in 0 Hour.
How can that be true?
I'm just telling you.
0 Hour was 57?
Yeah.
57.
There's no way that's
not the same dog.
No, it's not the. I'm not saying it's the same dog.
You're saying a Dalmatian.
I'm saying there was a shot.
Dalmatian.
They had a shot.
That
they
makes
cut
sense.
to a shot of a Dalmatian sitting on a fire truck in 0 Hour.
Oh, okay.
No, I'm not saying it's the same
We're
dog.
doing part 2 of this Cinephiles.
For 0 Hour.
We're talking about 0 Hour. John, you're gonna.
I might be sick that day.
You're gonna love it.
We'll just do a commentary track. We asked the passengers all to get in crash positions.
Oh, that is hilarious.
The crash positions are fantastic.
Everyone is in crash position.
And then finally they see the plane and it's coming in. And there's this moment where Jonathan Banks is saying,
he's all over the place. 900 feet up to 1,300 feet. What an asshole.
And then as we're coming in towards the runway, all the lights on the runway go out. We cut to Johnny with a plug saying,
"Just kidding,
just kidding." That might have been where I had fallen out of my chair. I just thought it was so funny. And now Lloyd goes, "He's coming right at us!" Jumps out of the window. You see that Ted Stryker's holding onto the stick, and what they did is they put a hydraulic motor on the stick, so he really couldn't control it. It actually lifted him off of his seat at one point, which they didn't keep in the movie. Flight 209 now arriving at Gate 8. Gate 9. Gate 10. This is one moment as we hear Kramer yelling instructions. She just yells, "Push that button." Gate 13. Gate 14.
Passengers are running from gate to gate.
The landing gear breaks. The plane skids in. That's when we get anti-M. It's a twister. Gate 23. The reporters all run into phone booths, knocking the phone booths over. And now the plane has landed. And the passengers get out of crash positions, and the door opens, and Leslie Nielsen walks in and says,
I just want to tell you both, good luck. We're all counting on you.
We asked Stryker, "Are you all right?" And he says, "Yeah, we're okay."
Ted, that was probably the lousiest landing in the history of this airport. For some of us here, particularly me, I'd like to buy you a drink and shake your hand.
That line, straight out of 0 Hour. And he goes out, not realizing that Kramer's just going to keep talking. His monologue is so funny.
Loneliness, that's the bottom line. I was never happy as a child. Christmas, Ted, what does that mean to you? To me, it was a living hell. You know what it's like to fall in the mud and get kicked in the head by an iron boot? Of course you don't. No one does. That never happens. Sorry, Ted, that's a dumb question. Skip that.
Was that in 0 Hour?
I don't know.
That was
I
not 0 Hour.
did not think that's in 0 Hour. The little girl gets taken out in an ambulance. More people are coming out. And as she goes away in the ambulance, it crashes. We see a little hubcap fly through the runway. We still hear Kramer talking. Municipal bonds, AA rating, best investment in America. And there is a big, huge kiss between Ted and Elaine. As the camera circles, we suddenly hear this powerful music, and we cut to Otto in the plane. An inflatable stewardess pops up at his co-pilot. He winks and flies away to fireworks. And that is the end of Airplane.
Not really.
Yeah.
Because
Except-
long before Marvel movies had bonus scenes.
That's right.
You have the bonus scene at the end of Airplane
Yeah.
where our guy is still in the cab at the airport at LAX. The fare is like in the thousands of dollars. I'm going to give him just 2 more minutes. And then the movie is over.
Yeah. We also have, by the way, joke credits because we have things where it says things like generally in charge of a lot of things. Charles Dickens, author of A Tale of Two Cities, is in the credit.
Right.
At the very end of the, no people or places, this is a fictitious blah, 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 it says, so there.
So there. Wow. Nothing, no stone unturned.
So obviously, as you said before, it's a big hit. It made tons and tons of money. It created this whole genre of comedy with Police Squad and Naked Gun and Hot Shots movies that happened for a while. It made, in the first 2 days it was in the theater, it paid off the whole budget.
Wow.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because it costs only 3.5 and it grossed 83.4. It created this genre, that even went into the 21st century with like Scary Movie.
Yeah.
But nothing comes close except for the first Naked Gun, which came out in 1988.
Yeah.
No other film comes close to Airplane as far as a spoof. And all these years, I always thought that Airplane was a spoof of Airport, which it is. But knowing that it's such a close shot-for-shot version of 0 Hour, that is how you do it.
Yeah.
Find a movie that is ridiculous, played straight, and then you twist it a little bit, and that's right for a spoof.
What's funny is it is in fact a remake. I mean, they bought the rights to the script. They have characters. I mean, it's the same story. It's a remake.
Yeah, it's a remake.
Wow.
Yeah,
Their version of it.
I'm like pumped to go home and watch 0 Hour. I got to
Sterling
find
Hayden is in 0 Hour.
Sterling Hayden.
So I wonder what part he's playing.
Oh, I'll bet he plays the Robert Stack character.
Yeah, I bet he does. I bet he does. We should check. Yeah. So I will just give my final thoughts first. They're very short. I put on this movie. Normally I watch the movie first and then I'll watch a commentary track if there is one, because Karen wanted to watch it. I ended up watching the commentary track first, which I don't normally do. And I have the subtitles so I can, know what's going on. I know the movie really well. And I just kept getting sucked in and sitting right there where John is sitting right now. I just started laughing. And the thing is, like, when you're in a big group together, you're seeing a movie on opening night, it's really easy to laugh. I don't usually laugh out loud by myself. I still think this movie is really fucking funny. It is so funny to me, and it is so just joke after joke. And is it silly? Absolutely. Like we did Network, which actually is a very funny movie.
It is.
But Network is deep. It's about some heavy, serious stuff. This isn't heavy or serious about anything. It literally is about the jokes. How many jokes can we fit in and how silly they can be? And the sillier the jokes are, the more they make me laugh.
I had not sat through and seen Airplane from start to finish in a very, very, very long time. I really cannot remember the last time I watched this movie from start to finish. So when I watched it last night, I really thought, the first thing I thought of was, how is this going to hold up? Like, is it going to feel dated? And it really didn't. I mean, except for maybe a couple of
Some
jokes.
of the jokes.
The coffee joke. I haven't felt this awful since that Ronald Reagan movie. Which
That joke's still funny.
That joke is still funny. But so much about this movie is, like, I would say it's 98% holds up perfectly. You could watch this movie right now. They could have released this movie right now. No other spoof had ever been done, and it's still gold. It is the funniest, like the greatest comedies of all time. What do people talk about? They talk about Real Frankenstein, Blazing Saddles. Go
Some
back
Like
to
It Hot.
Some Like It Hot is one that is always like number one on like the AFI list. But Airplane, to me, watching it and just laughing out loud by myself. I watched it at home by myself, and I was laughing out loud. I couldn't believe how I was rediscovering it as a grown-up, as a like with this whole background now, working in film and reviewing movies and all that, going like, wow, even with all that, it still holds up above the rest of these other spoofs. What do you think, John?
I don't know if I should have any final thoughts, to be honest with you.
Well, look, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Unless you have something good to go.
I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
Here's my question.
Yes.
have you had fun sitting with
Oh,
us?
of course.
Reliving the film? How does the movie that you watched compared with the movie we talked about today?
This is a better movie.
Hearing Steve and I talk about this movie and laugh
Yes.
at our own jokes, telling the jokes, doesn't it make you love the movie more than watching it last night?
Yes, it makes me feel more nostalgically fun listening to you guys talk about it and in remembrance and that. So, but I will say this: it's a funny movie. I think for me, it's a little too. It's so dated now at where I'm at that I've seen the jokes so many times before that they don't carry the same kind of humor. And I think you guys saw it at that age where you love it, and like Caddyshack is like that for me. Caddyshack could probably people could watch it now and probably be like, oh, this is dated. For me, I watched it when I was 9-10 years old on a VHS, and we bought it. Like we bought it because I loved it so much. One of the gifts my parents gave me, and I watched it every day religiously, every day. And so it's Caddyshack, Broadcast News, and Rocky III were the three films we got. Oh, and Wildcats, the Goldie Hawn. We watched religiously.
That is a weird foursome.
We're a poor family. This is what we could afford.
Rocky 3?
Yeah, Caddyshack.
Rocky 3 I like, but I think Rocky 3 is better than Rocky 4.
Yeah, you could argue.
It is.
But
it
like,
is.
but watching
I do too.
Caddyshack is fantastic in that way, and I think this is what it is for you guys. So I would say this: if you love Airplane, I hope you enjoyed our discussion of it, and maybe you're going to go back and watch it and enjoy it again. If you've never seen it, please do not let me discourage you from seeing it. I think it's a taste, and you may love it to pieces. That's what I will say.
Now, having said that, John Roca,
Yes.
I just want to say if you have never seen Airplane and you are going to watch it for the first time after listening to this very special episode of the Cinephiles, cannot wait to hear what you think. If you are watching Airplane for the first time, make sure you tweet us. I'm at Movie Mance.
At SR Morris.
And The Roca Says.
At The Roca Says, yeah.
Definitely tweet us. Visit us on our Facebook page. Do a search for the Cinephiles. And if you watch it on YouTube, leave your comments on YouTube. If you really like listening to this and you feel like giving us a review on iTunes, they're a huge, huge help. We really could use those reviews on iTunes. If you want to support the show, you can do it on patreon.com/the Cinephiles. And if you want to buy Airplane or any other movie we've ever talked about or rent it through Amazon Prime, well, you got to go not to Amazon. They're a very powerful company. They don't need your help. Go to cinephiles.net and click on the Amazon link there because we get 7 cents or something off of a rental.
Guys, there you go.
That's
Capitalism at its finest.
That's right. And we've already said where you can reach us, so I think that is it for this week. You can see us next. Oh, but let me say first, Scott Mance.
Steve Morris.
Thank you very, very much for coming on the show.
Thank you, Scott.
Steve Morris, my friend John Roca. It is seriously, I've said this before, and I'll say it again. This is the most fun I ever have talking about movies when I talk about movies on the Cinephiles with the both of you guys. Thank you as always for always bringing me back and always just making this the best conversations. Even if Johnny Roca does not agree with us this time around, it still makes for an awesome conversation.
You are always one of our favorite guests, and we love having you on the show.
Truth.
Right on.
So that is it for this week, and next time we'll come up with another Citizen Kane of...
Could that be?
I don't know. Well, you'll have to stay tuned to the Cinephiles to find out.